Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on our Listeners Experience Zone, the Les.
Another weekend of hard work.
But we're doing it, and I'm really proud of the work we put in, and things are coming along nicely.
If you're new here, Danielle and I have started our own women's sport. It's called Redoing Our Basement. And I walked downstairs this past weekend and saw Danielle using, what is it called? Why do I never know?
The nail gun.
The nail gun by herself, throwing things up with her hand right behind the nail gun. And what happened to your poor little pinky? Tell everybody.
I was trying to put little pieces between the joists and securing them so that eventually we could put a top plate on it. And
people don't know what a top
I know,
plate is.
it's okay.
You're speaking Spanish.
But my pinky got blasted by the piece of wood after I put the nail gun in, and now it's very bruised.
Oh.
And you were being snooty, so I didn't even want to tell you right away that I hurt myself. And then afterwards, I was like, my pinky might be broken. It's definitely not broken, but the bruising has started.
And snooty, I was scared. I was afraid because I could see a nail going through your hand. And I was like, you need to stop what you're doing. You're going to really hurt yourself.
Luckily, that didn't happen. My pinky just got a little mangled, but we're still here. Still
No
alive
blood
to tell the tale.
Oh my gosh, please, someone save us. Save me.
No, we're making good progress. Good thing we have good friends who they're like, you got to get out of the house. You can't just stay in the basement all weekend.
Yes.
And shout out to Claudia and Em. We got to get together with them over the weekend too to watch the South Carolina versus SoCal Trojans. I know I can't say USC. Everyone gets mad. Claudia was like, what are you doing for fun this weekend? We were like, basement. She's like, no, you need to get out of the house. Appalled when we said we forgot to eat lunch on Saturday because we were so heads down doing our project. So yeah, it's really good we got out of the house to watch that game.
And that's really scary for me because I've never missed a meal in my entire life. And then you told me that we didn't eat lunch. And I was like, we didn't eat lunch. I've never, ever in my 34 years of life, have I ever mistakenly missed a meal? Whenever people are like, oh, I forgot to eat. I was like, you forgot to eat. That has never happened to me.
Yeah, I think we've been getting super hyper focused. And I do this whenever I'm in on a project and I just won't stop for anything. Sometimes I won't even stop to pee. And I'm like, Danielle, how long have you been holding your bladder? Like, it's really bad. Maybe it's ADHD. I don't know. But I get very hyper focused. And we were both very hyper focused. And yeah, not a good sign when you forget to eat a meal.
The more things that come out about signs of ADHD, I'm always like, huh. Not for you, but I'm like, for me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that lines up.
Yeah.
Not diagnosed and not trying to diagnose myself, at least not on here.
No, but we're still together. We're making it through. Fights each day, every time we're down in the basement, but it's all love at the end of the day, and we're going to carry on.
Yes, we are. Let's get into some sports.
Yes. So as I mentioned, we got together with some friends to watch the quote-unquote real SC matchup. It should really be USC, because I feel like that's really the argument. But I guess USC does go by USC more than South Carolina. And when I say USC, it's no shade thrown at South Carolina, because when I think of who's the real USC, like, I would always say South Carolina, but whatever. But anyways,
let me just add, University of South Carolina was established in 1801. I don't know when Southern California was established, but it was not in 1801. And for that reason, I think we are the real USC. Now, I know that USC in the bottom box, even during this game, it said USC versus South Carolina. However, if we're talking technicalities, South Carolina is the first and the real USC.
That's fine, but I never say University of Southern California. I always say USC. And when I'm talking about South Carolina, I always say South Carolina. I don't do that as shade one way or the other. That's just easier for my brain.
But after this matchup, I guess we can just say that South Carolina is the real USC, right? Because South Carolina ends up winning 69-52.
Yeah, exactly. And this was the first of what I think is going to be many years of this matchup. A lot of times at the beginning of college seasons, teams play at a neutral site, and that's what this is and what this was. It's a fun way to kick off the season. This matchup was in Los Angeles. So when we say neutral site, I always roll my eyes a little bit when it's at a neutral site, but it's in the same city as one of the schools. Anyways, technically it wasn't
on campus.
Yeah, it wasn't on their campus.
It was Crypto Arena or whatever it's called, where the Lakers play.
Yeah. As you said, South Carolina won this game. They were crowned the Real SC for this year at least. And this is Gamecocks' first ever Real SC title. A few things to remind our listeners before getting into this game. Juju Watkins, who not only is the star of University of Southern California, I'm rolling my eyes as I say that just because it's easier to say USC, but not only is she the star of the Trojans, she's also a star across NCAA basketball. Yeah. And as a reminder, she tore her ACL at the end of last season. And it was no surprise to us that, unfortunately, she's not going to be playing this season because of that ACL tear, because ACLs take forever to recover from. And even if you're feeling better, to get up to the caliber of play that she was at ending her sophomore season, it's going to take some time. It sucks to see her on the bench versus on the court. She's just such an amazing player, and I personally am going to miss watching her this season. I'm sure a lot of people are, and they panned to her during the game quite a bit, and she was still laughing and having a good time, but man, I feel bad for her.
And coaching up players, which I love to see. We've talked about Juju Watkins getting hurt and just how horrible it is. It sucks to have her on the bench, and this Southern California team looks so different.
Yeah. Oh, I still have memories of her going down last season. It's just like, I hate that replay in my head. But the Trojans were able to keep this first half really close. And at the end of the first half, they were only down 2 points, 32-30. And we were all looking at each other like, is South Carolina going to pick it up here? Because South Carolina has a lot more returners than USC this year. But USC was giving them a run for their money in the first half.
Yeah, South Carolina has a lot of returners in the backcourt. We mentioned them last episode when we did our NCAA preview, but their down low post players are relatively new. They have a transfer from Mississippi State who's new, and then they have Miriam Dowda, who was on the team last year but got limited minutes. So their post players are fresh.
I would say that across the board in NCAA, between the transfer portal and new freshmen coming in, it's going to take all of us a minute to get our whereabouts with each team. Who is everyone? I was looking at the screen. I was like, oh my God, these teams are so... South Carolina, granted, they have a lot of returners that obviously we know well, but Southern California barely has anyone returning that I could see a familiar face. So anyways, that's something across the board I think I'm going to have to get used to as we get used to these teams.
For sure. And I forgot to mention, South Carolina also obviously has Joyce Edwards down low. Joyce Edwards is tall, but when we were out with our friends this past weekend, they were like, who's going to guard Lauren Betts?
Yeah.
So I still think South Carolina has to answer that, and they were flat this first half. It is still so early in the season, but I'm just always nervous about South Carolina. And I know I had them in my Final Four in our way too early predictions last week. I think it's going to be a tough road for them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for everyone. That's why it is the Final Four. But you mentioned Joyce Edwards, so a few key stats for the Gamecocks. Joyce Edwards actually put up 17 points and 10 rebounds, so double-double for her. And then Raven Johnson, who's a senior this year, also had a double-double, 14 points, 11 rebounds. And we were talking about her at the table, and we were saying, I personally said she's not the biggest scorer, but to see her throw up 14 points in that game is huge because they need to see more of that from her. And then you have junior Tessa Johnson, who's a returner, and then senior transfer Tanaya Latson, and they also both scored double digits. Well-rounded game for the Gamecocks, and it's always good to see multiple players scoring big numbers. And then you have some leading scorers for USC, the Trojans, sophomore and key returner Kennedy Smith. Literally one of the only people I'm like, oh, I remember her as a freshman last year. She had 12 points. And then you have senior transfer from Georgia Tech, Cara Dunn, added 10 points.
South Carolina, definitely in the second half, controlled rebounding. They out-rebounded Southern California 56-32 in the entire game. And the Gamecocks were able to pull away in the third quarter. They outscored USC 23-15 and forced 7 turnovers. So that third quarter was pivotal for the Gamecocks. Southern California is really missing Juju Watkins. They shot 1 for 14 from the 3-point range. And although Juju's bag is not 3-pointers. She's at least a threat out there.
It doesn't get much worse than 1 for 14. At some point, you just got to stop shooting the 3. And that's coming from me, who loves to shoot the 3. But whew, we were obviously excited to see South Carolina. For listeners who might be a little newer, Carolyn went to South Carolina, go Cox, and I, of course, have turned into a South Carolina fan over the years. Still love my Notre Dame. I still have other teams I love, but go Gamecocks all the way.
There we go. We do need to talk about some other NCAA upsets, and maybe we should start with Notre Dame. Because it wasn't technically an upset. They were the number 18 seed and Michigan was number 14, but Michigan handed it to Notre Dame 93-54.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Are you okay?
I haven't even watched them play yet this year, so I gotta watch a game and buckle up. But no, that score is rough.
In other upsets in this past week, West Virginia beat Duke. Duke was ranked number 15 at the time, 57-49. And West Virginia did this with only 5 players in the second half.
You have Duke in your Final Four.
I know, but the Final Four is just going out the window.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's still very early in the season. In that game, there was a little bit of a scuffle between 2 of the players. Nothing major. It's interesting because Duke, they've been in high pressure situations before and have had a lot of attention before. So their players knew to stay on the bench if a scuffle happened, and the West Virginia players did not. And so they all left the bench. They didn't really get even close to anyone, but they left the bench when the scuffle occurred and they all got ejected. So they played with 5 available players.
Woof.
Just craziness, but ended up winning. And then TCU, who was ranked number 17, beat NC State, who was ranked number 10 this past Sunday, 69-59. And, you know, I went on last week about how I didn't think TCU was very good except for Olivia Miles, so foot in mouth. I'll be doing that all season.
Yes, you will.
That's so rude.
Oh, I got to take this next one, though, because it actually pains me to talk about this school on this podcast because they were one of my rivals in college. But the University of Scranton, who's in Pennsylvania, I went to Moravian College, now Moravian University, and I played basketball there. Scranton was in my conference, and we always battled with them. My senior year, we lost to them in the championship. Out of all my 4 years, it was the only championship I was in. They beat us pretty bad, and it's annoying because a few games before that, we beat them on their home court, and then we played them again. You know how that happens.
Yeah.
And then they smacked us. It was a pretty bad beating. They've always been good, but I have to talk about them because they're Division III, and they beat Division I Pitt 69-63. This past week. And when I saw that, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. That is just wild.
And they're bench players. Players coming off the bench were scoring in double digits. Just craziness.
Wow. It would have been fun to be at that game. If I was in college right now and I took down a Division I school, I hope they didn't party too hard because I probably would be, I don't know. It wouldn't have been good back in the day.
I'd be sending that video to Power 5 schools like, hey, do you want some of this?
Yeah. So shout out to
cool.
them. Yeah. Very cool. A small town, Scranton, Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful campus. People shit on Division III, and hey,
they're working
gotta
hard.
Give them their flowers for that one.
With limited resources. Yeah. That's a really cool thing to happen for them.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Scranton.
Go Landmark Conference.
There you go. With all of these teams, especially being in early in the season and with some teams playing badly and then just some really poor performances from individuals, and we're not going to get into it. It just reminded me of when I would play bad in sports. And this is a long way to get here, but like I used to play so badly when I was on my period. And I know that some people, like some disgusting men, are commenting on people who play poorly and be like, you must be on your period, or creating bets around people if they're on their period. And that's not what I want to get into. I just want to talk about how your period can really affect you as a player.
It's a real thing.
Do you have any specific memories of playing poorly and being like, this is definitely because of my period?
I remember thinking that, but I don't have a very specific memory.
Wouldn't your dad ask you questions?
He would just say, is it that time of the month? Like in high school, if I played poorly, and I'd be like, yes, it is. So mad, especially as a high school kid. Your hormones are flying everywhere, and then you're dealing with that shit. But he was very nice about it. He was just like, is it that time of the month? I'd be like, shaking my head. I love you, Dad. I know it was all love.
I have this clear memory of being at basketball practice in high school, and my sister was 4 years older than I was. So it was during the winter time. She was home from college on winter break, and she would come to basketball practice and help out. And we were practicing shot fakes one day, and I was PMSing so badly I could not get the shot fake down, and she was like, Carolyn, you just go like this and then you do this. And I was like, got it. And then my body just could not do the motion, and then I would just had tears coming down my face, and she was like, are you crying? I was like, yeah, I can't do the shot fake. She was like, do you have your period? I was like, I'm about to get it. She was like, this is horrible. And so yeah, periods are real.
Yeah,
they affect the way we play. I don't know if that's what happened in all these upsets this week, but I do have to go out and say that I think it needs to be studied a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I do think we're getting there, and they're monitoring it, especially as it comes to injuries. But this should have happened years ago. And the way you play, especially as a young person, as you were saying, as a teen, when you're just getting flooded with hormones, it's going to have an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that to say, periods are real.
And we have nothing to back up any of this. You just went on tangent there, but they sure are real.
I just really wanted to tell that story about me at basketball practice having a mental breakdown.
I'm sure your sister will think back on that fondly.
Yes.
We have to get into NWSL playoffs. Keeping this highlight for last because I think it's the best one given the time of year. And we have a final matchup, but let's get into these semifinal games, starting with Washington Spirit versus the Portland Thorns. And I know we have many happy friends right now because the Washington Spirit won this game 2-0.
This was played in front of a sold out crowd at Audi Field of 19,365 fans. It was rocking.
Gift Monday continued on her hot streak, and she had a goal for the second straight postseason match. And this was an amazing setup by Rose Kouassi, who delivered literally a highlight reel moment. She picked up the ball deep in her own half. Then she was able to tear down the right wing. After beating multiple players, she was able to set up Gift very nicely, who was able to then score the goal in the back of the net.
And for the second goal, it was also very pretty. It was all Croy Bethune for that one. She was able to seal the deal late in the game. Portland was obviously pressing to try to score to even it up, but there was a sloppy back pass from the Portland Thorns, and Croy Bethune was able to get the ball, go past the goalie who had stepped out, and had an open shot to make it 2-0 to solidify their way into the championship.
Everything she does, I feel like, is so seamless, and she just makes it look so easy, which good for her. Must be nice.
I love watching her play.
I know. So fun.
Really my favorite player to watch.
Another notable moment of this game, Trinity Rodman. She came in at the 90th minute, and we already mentioned this was a sellout crowd of over 19,000 fans. Got a huge ovation. She's been out the past month for a knee injury and obviously haven't been playing. We talked about last week that they had her as available, but she didn't go in. She didn't warm up, but she came in at the last minute for this game, and she almost scored.
She almost scored.
In stoppage time, which is crazy. There was a low shot that skidded just wide, so that would have been really cool if she added one, but heading into the final, if I'm Gotham, who we'll talk about that next game soon, and I'm thinking, oh, Trinity's okay, like she's going to play in this game, even just the idea of her being in the game, even if she's not at her full self, that's going to bring a lot of power for the Washington Spirit.
And purple hair. Purple hair Trin.
Love, 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 love. So with this Washington Spirit win, they remain unbeaten in 6 home playoff games. And it's unfortunate for Portland losing this game because they were chasing history because this was actually their 10th semifinal appearance in the NWSL.
Yeah, they're a team that is always good and have multiple NWSL championships.
But Spirit were able to take them out, and I think the Spirit have some momentum on their side right now. You have Gift Monday, who's been playing great. Mm-hmm. You have Croy Bethune, who we've already said is Croy Bethune and always plays amazing. And then Trinity Rodman, if she comes back and starts, the three of them in the front field, they could really just peak at the right moment as they enter the final match.
With that, let's get into this Gotham-Orlando semifinal.
Yeah, I'm going to say, maybe an unpopular opinion, the first 90 minutes of this game were kind of boring.
There was nothing happening until stoppage time in this match.
And this is how soccer goes, right? A lot of times soccer, there's obviously not a lot of goals scored ever. I thought Orlando just were in control most of the game. They just had it in the Gotham side of the field for so much of the game, but they just couldn't put anything away. I was like, is someone going to score?
I know. Orlando was definitely in control. Gotham did put some pressure on late in the game. I remember looking at the clock. It was the 80th minute, and I was like, okay, the tides have changed just a little bit here. We go into stoppage time. There's 6 minutes of stoppage time. And in that 6 minute, the 96th minute, there is a set piece for Gotham right outside of the 18-yard mark. Jaden Shaw takes the kick. She shoots it. It looks like it goes off of Gotham's mid-purse to go into the goal.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
It missed her.
She just shot it right into the goal to make it 1-0 in the 6 minute of stoppage time, and there was only 6 minutes added.
Yeah. I was looking at Rose and Jaden set up for this. I was like, the way I was hoping Jaden would take the shot, just the angle, and they were both like whispering. So I was like, who the hell is going to take this shot? I didn't even think it looked like that hard of a kick. I think more so she was trying to pass it to someone, but Purse, as you mentioned, I think because she almost deflected it, the goalie just got thrown off and it just slid right past her.
As a reminder, Jaden Shaw started off this season playing for the North Carolina Courage. She was traded in September to Gotham, is just making such a huge impact on the team, and is now headed to an NWSL Final. So incredibly cool for the 20-year-old. This was the first home playoff loss for the Orlando Pride.
In history.
Craziness. And so even though it was 6 minutes of stoppage time and it was very close to the end when Jaden Shaw scored, they added like an extra 2 minutes because of the celebrating and all of that.
And there was another injury.
In the 98th minute.
Oh my gosh. The Orlando Pride almost tied this game.
Ann Katrenberger for Gotham made the most insane save.
Literally,
and was like,
I screamed.
No, we're not going into extra time. This ends here, and we're going to the finals.
I screamed. That ball was going into the upper 90, and I just can't even believe she got there in time and was able to save that, because it was off a header, off a set play, and I was just like, they're about to bury this in the back of the goal, and she comes out of nowhere and punches it over. That has to go on a highlight reel somewhere. She has to feel good about that one. My goodness.
That has to feel really, really good. In the finals, we have Washington Spirit and Gotham.
Yeah, can't wait.
It's going to be so fun. Let's get into some updates from us.
Yes, so this week, this Thursday, and every Thursday at 6 p.m., we have Run Club here in Denver at the 99ers Sports Bar. We would love to welcome new runners, so please join us. We do run 3 miles, and then afterwards we hang out at the 99ers Sports Bar. If you listen to our podcast and share the weekly secret word with the bartenders, you will get 50% off your first draft. It pains me to say our secret word this week, but it is Scranton, because kudos to Scranton for, again, beating Pitt this past week.
We also need to take this time to ask you to please rate and subscribe to our podcasts. Like we always say, we really do enjoy putting this podcast together. It's our 97th episode. It's blowing my mind. We want to continue to do this. We create, produce, and edit the podcasts ourselves. The best way to support us, and I know you want to support us, is to rate, subscribe, give us a positive review, and share the podcast with the people you love. Thank you to everyone who has rated the podcast. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a Women's Sports Weekly sticker.
All right. Now we will get into our deep dive for the week, and we are going to talk about Project B. Can you please tell us what the heck Project B is?
Yes. Very weird name, and we need to talk about it because it's coming.
I feel like it's getting some headlines. We'll explain why in just a bit, but what is it?
It's not Plan B, which I'm not a huge fan of the name. I gotta.
Okay. Project B, carry on.
Because what was Project A? Like, why did they name it Project B? It sounds like a backup plan.
Carolyn, can you tell me what it is?
No, because Plan B is like a backup plan, right? You take Plan B when Plan A didn't work.
Well, maybe they had a Plan A and it didn't work, so this is Project B. I don't know what to tell you, and I don't know why you're getting so upset about the name.
Okay, Project B is a new 5v5 women's basketball league scheduled to begin in November of 2026. So not until next year. But we're talking about it because there are some major WNBA players who are signing to this league. It was founded by Grady Burnett, who's a former Google and Facebook executive, and Jeff Prentice, who is the co-founder of Skype. It is going to begin as a women's basketball league, and then they may actually add a men's league as well, which is interesting because that's not usually how it happens.
Yeah, that is interesting. I kind of like that the ladies are being pulled first. Interesting timing too, because we're in November now and the WNBA literally just ended a month ago and you have WNBA players signing. So I just wonder how that's going to work, and they're not going to have much recovery time after the WNBA season. Unrivaled doesn't start till what, January? You get some time, but November's, you're really diving in.
That is true.
Can you explain the structure of this?
So to begin, it will feature 6 teams with 11 players on each team. The way that they're breaking this up is actually like tournament style. So they're going to play 7 2-week tournaments in cities across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. So I'm assuming North and South America.
Come to Denver.
Maybe they'll go to Mexico.
Come to Denver.
I want to go to Mexico.
Okay.
From November 2026 to April 2027. It will not overlap with the WNBA season, but it will overlap with Unrivaled. The league hopes that it will reach basketball fans who live outside of the US. I actually like this 2-week tournament style switching of places.
I'm like, can't really wrap my head around it, but I'm sure it will be very cool. I find it interesting because a lot of the WNBA players wanted to stop traveling overseas to play, and that's why Unrivaled was such a big draw, one of the reasons. And now this is going to take you all different places, which I guess is cool. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of questions.
But in 2-week chunks, right?
Yeah.
So that...
But that's like more travel and more, think about it, Asia, Europe, America, all those different time zones. Like that takes a toll on your body.
That's a great point. Right now, they are focusing on creating leadership. We're a year out, and their leadership is pretty impressive. So their chief basketball officer is Elena Beard, former WNBA All-Star. They have investors and advisors that include Candace Parker, tennis player Novak Djokovic, and tennis player Sloane Stephens.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And they are paying the players a lot.
Are they? What have they revealed what they're going to be paying the players?
Yes. So the owners, they are startup bros, and they want this to be like a startup. The players will have equity in the company, and they're going to get paid a shit ton.
What's a shit ton?
Salaries at like $2 million.
Really?
Yes.
If I'm a WNBA player, hell yeah, I'm going there.
You throw all that travel complaining out the window.
Yeah,
you'll
I
be
am.
there. And then multi-year deals reaching 8 figures, so like 10 million and above.
Good for them. Get that bag. The W better watch out, though.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Players also receive equity in the league. And already we have Nneka Ogwumike, who said that they are joining the league. WNBA MVP, union leader, Madam President. She was the first player to publicly announce they were signing to Project B. And Alyssa Thomas has also signed.
Wow. That's very interesting.
So let's get into this salary comparison. The WNBA, the current Supermax salary for the WNBA, this is so laughable.
For one person.
Yes. Is $250,000. And I'm rounding up here. But that's like what the highest paid player is making. The lowest salary is under $80,000.
Rookie salary. Yep.
During the CBA negotiations, it came out the WNBA was offering a supermax around $850,000 and then a veteran minimum, so not a rookie minimum, a veteran minimum of about $300,000. Still low, and I anticipate that those numbers will climb a little bit higher. So that's kind of like what we're up against. So let's say it's $850,000. They're offering $2 million. More than double.
Wow.
To play for 7 weeks. In comparison to Unrivaled average salary is $220,000 plus equity in the league. Mm-hmm. And I would say my response would be like, yeah, because Unrivaled is shorter.
And they just started and don't have as much sponsors.
I know, but Project B is saying we'll give you $2 million.
Yeah, all these leagues, it's getting quite competitive.
So Project B is offering $2 million annually to start, equity in the league, but there is no data yet on what the minimum is going to be, what the roster is going to be. It is going to be 5v5, so there are going to be more people on it. It's very interesting. The reason why I originally wanted to talk about Project B is because I heard that there were ties to Saudi Arabia. And we've actually talked about on this podcast sports washing and how Saudi Arabia specifically uses sports and is increasingly using women's sports as a way to hide all of the shitty things that they do. Last February, the Financial Times reported that Project B was backed in part by Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund. The owners of Project B have come forward and said that Saudi Arabia is not a financial backer. This gets very complicated, but they say they have a partnership with Sela, an entertainment company owned by the Saudi-owned public investment fund. They say that they're not accepting any money from Sela. Project B is actually paying Sela, but the league doesn't receive any money from them. A little murky still to me, but Project B is headquartered in Singapore. I don't know. I kind of want to take a wait and see approach with this. The WNBA has always been considered, and it's based off the players. It's an activist league. So to be wrapped up in Saudi Arabia, yes, I want you to get paid. And I know that we always hold women to higher standards, but I don't think we should lower our standards. I think we should increase the standards that we have for men, just like we do for women. And I don't want to support sports washing of any kind.
No, for sure. But to your point, I think we just have to wait and see what happens because we do have a lot more to learn about this.
Yeah.
But something to think about. Do you think this is going to have an impact on the WNBA?
I think anytime a new league comes out, it's a threat to the WNBA. I really do. They're not directly competing with them yet, but they're putting pressure on. You have now 2 leagues that say we can pay a lot more than what you pay in a lot less of the time.
Yeah.
Why can't the WNBA do that? And I do think it makes a very big, and this is why I think we're talking about it, is because NECA signed so early. I think it puts the WNBA on their heels. You have your union president signing with a league. What incentive do these WNBA players have to play in the WNBA? Yeah. They could just play in Project B and Unrivaled, not at the same time, and make more money than they're making in the WNBA right now.
That's really sad, honestly.
For less time and for what?
And better benefits.
Exactly. So I do think any of these leagues are a threat to the WNBA, but I hope instead of crumbling the WNBA, it puts the WNBA on notice to provide these players with what they deserve. I don't want the WNBA to go away. I don't think the players want the WNBA to go away either.
Yeah, no.
There's history there. There are these teams and cities. We in the US love basketball. We love the WNBA. But if you're not going to treat people and give them what they deserve, then I understand going somewhere else and getting the money you deserve.
For sure.
Project B also poses a threat to Unrivaled. I think that's the most immediate threat.
I think the players who played in Unrivaled, minus Alyssa Thomas, because she signed with Project B and was in Unrivaled at first, but I feel like the players really like Unrivaled, and I think there will be enough players who stay there. But yeah, regardless, it's a threat, and I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, and there are some players who are not coming back this year to Unrivaled. Angel Reese is one that sticks up at the top of my head. She would be a perfect fit for Project B. So yeah, this will be very interesting to track. We will keep you updated as we learn more, but we wanted to give you just a little bit of a taste of Project B, which... Startup bros, you got to work on the names, my dudes.
Hopefully they come up with something better than that.
All right, let's get into what we're looking forward to this week. Danielle, what do you have?
So the PWHL begins this week. Very exciting. The first game of the season will be Friday, November 21st. This game will feature the reigning 2-time Walter Cup championship, the Minnesota Frosts, versus the Toronto Scepters at 7 p.m. Eastern. Following this game, the new West Coast rivalry between the expansion teams Seattle and Vancouver will be played at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can watch all PWHL games on YouTube.
It's hockey season, baby.
What do you got for us?
The NWSL Finals are on Saturday, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS and Paramount+. Who is it going to be, Danielle? Spirit or Gotham? Give it to us.
I got to go with Spirit. I just feel like, especially after this last game, they really solidified it. Whereas Gotham, I was like, are they? I just didn't think they were going to win it. So I'm going Spirit. How about you?
I'm going bottom to the top, Gotham.
You're just doing that because you like to do anything opposite, I say.
Correct.
Wow.
We got to keep it interesting here. That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.